Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode... Oh, no, I forgot the number.
Year 3, episode 1. I mean, that could work.
Is it?
It is.
No.
It is year 3.
I thought that was the game of the... Episode 1 was the game of the year one that we did for 2021.
Well,
so this would be episode 2. Year 3, episode 2.
I mean, chronologically, yes.
Anyway. Welcome to the... In from Japan Spoilercast for Pokemon Legends Arceus. That is the English pronunciation. In Japanese, it's pronounced Arceus. Both are technically correct, just so you know. And yeah, so we've both completed the main game.
Mm-hmm.
There was recently an update. We'll talk about that a little later. But first, we'll start off by introducing ourselves, of course. As always, I'm your host, Erroll Moss, and with me is my co-host, the phenomenon from Storynom, Jason Corder.
Yes, a.k.a. the Tarnished One.
A.k.a. the Tarnished One. Hey, that's not until the next podcast. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Okay.
Gotta do a Pokemon related. But yeah, so starting out this game, I chose Cyndaquil because that's like my favorite Pokemon. Well, Typhlosion. It's that whole line, basically. So I was happy to use Cyndaquil as a starter again. Now, which did you use?
Oshawott.
And did you know about the Hisui? Well, yeah, you must have known about the Hisui evolutions before you started playing, right?
You mean the third evolution or the second evolution?
Yes.
The final form.
The Hisui evolutions. The final one. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about it, but I never saw any visuals, so I couldn't really make up my mind based off of that.
Right. I saw them before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, that's fine, but let's see them in action. Because the whole thing about Typhlosion is, like, in the image that leaked, the flames weren't activated. And that's, like, a big part of Typhlosion's whole deal is the flames. And it has, because it's a fire and ghost type, it has the purple flames now.
Oh.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this game. Now, is it perfect? No, but I think it's a step in the right direction for the franchise. If they continue with like a more open world kind of format.
Which we'll get into a bit later, I guess.
Yeah, which we'll get into a little later.
But what are your top level thoughts? Like when you first started up this game, did you gel with the reception amongst the reviews, or were your thoughts a bit different?
Pretty much. No, I pretty much gelled with it. The one thing I found annoying was, it's a lot of the same Pokemon from Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, which I had just played. Mm-hmm. But I mean, of course, it's the same region, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But just kind of like, it just seemed a little repetitive, except for the fact that there were more Pokemon everywhere. I wasn't just running into Geodude and Machop and Ponyta in every round.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it didn't bother me as much because I kind of already forgotten what happened in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Not that it was forgettable. It's just I'm not really focused too much on retaining core memories when it comes to Pokemon games. It's just, I've had my fun, time to move on. So when it came to Legend Arceus, I was kind of excited to see how everything would be in an open world Pokemon game.
Right.
And
or at least a semi-open world.
Yeah, semi-open world. There are also these little flourishes about the Pokemon themselves, or of the Pokemon themselves when they are interacting with one another. Or I saw one where a stage 1 Pokemon got spooked by the trainer and then walked up to a stage 2 or 3 Pokemon and then basically tattled on them. So the stage
was it Teddy Ursa and Ursa Ring?
Probably. I can't remember which one it was, but I thought that was so clever to see. And I think that is kind of the key to making an open world Pokemon game successful. It's not the battling, although the minor touches they've added are welcome, or how many Pokemon you can collect within one game. What I think will end up serving the series well is that small touches, like making the Pokemon feel alive, like they're part of the world. I don't know if you've really paid attention lately to Animal Crossing, New Horizons, that is.
No.
And every little action your villagers or your main character does has these little flourishes that make them feel alive.
Right.
And I think that's needed, because just throwing, 800 something Pokemon into an open world and letting you loose as if it were Skyrim will probably not be a successful formula, because it will feel kind of empty and vacant.
Right.
So I'm happy to see that they added these small touches and gave the Pokemon themselves added charm and personality. So yeah, I'm really happy with it so far.
Have you seen, like, if you sneak around some Tangela, sometimes when they see you, instead of attacking you, they'll just like run around you?
No, I have not
and just
seen
play
that.
with you.
It's so fun to see how even amongst the things you thought you knew, you are still being surprised with every encounter. Because like a Buizel, is that how you pronounce it?
Buizel.
Yeah, the water
Buizel.
the water type Pokemon. When you come across him or her in any of the mainline games, you're just having a Pokemon, like something you battle and catch or come across and run away from. But here it's something that gets fairly aggressive when you get close to it. So
right.
I have to keep adjusting my approach when it comes to catching Pokemon or traversing the world, because that
especially depending on the area you're in, because sometimes there's not a good place to hide.
Yeah, that's kind of tricky, because sometimes I just want to be in the world and not have to worry about a Pokemon running after me.
Right.
That's a bit annoying.
So a friend of mine was saying how he wishes that, like, once you got past a certain level, Pokemon in an area would, back off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's no.
The problem is there's no set thing like that. There's a bunch of different levels.
There's no logical reason why a Pokemon would look at you and think, "Oh, this guy has a badge that says he can tame up to level 100. I better stay away from him." That's kind of tricky, because as we inch closer to realism or plausibility within an open world, a lot of these questions will pop up more and more, where you're gonna have to answer them, and if you don't answer them, it kind of gnaws at the believability of the world, and that's not what you want. And there's this YouTube channel, New Frame Plus, if I'm not mistaken, that goes behind the scenes and takes a look at the animations that video games have in them, and the Pokemon games were one of the featured episodes. So in that episode, he posits that possibly the reason why Pokemon don't have that many animations or new moves is because they want it not to be super realistic and ultra violent, because that's not the market they're catering to.
Right.
Which leads me to another question. Do you think there will be a split amongst the mainline games where you have your traditional RPGs on one hand, and on the other hand, you have the Legend series. Do you think that's going to be their approach?
I don't know yet. It's tough to say with some of the stuff we know now that we have to wait to talk about.
Yeah.
Like before that, I would say I'd be a bigger like maybe, but probably. But now I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of movesets, I was kind of upset that a lot of the movesets were reduced.
How so reduced?
They don't learn all the attacks they learned in.
But are you really paying attention to all the attacks they're learning across the journey, or is it just something you're accustomed to?
It's just when you're accustomed to certain Pokemon learning certain attacks at certain levels, it kind of feels weird. Now I do like that it doesn't ask you
do you want to delete a move?
Like to replace you can just do it whenever and it'll just have it. It gets rid of the move tutor, or at least that type of move. The move deleter and move remember.
Yeah, I think
because there is still a move tutor.
We talked about this a few episodes ago where I said that would be a welcome change, where you had that as an added tool for tactical advantages, because it really doesn't matter what you choose or what you do, or how your Pokemon evolves or grows. You still end up choosing like the stronger attack move, not the how do I say this? Like the move that buffs your Pokemon all that much, because battles are
because there's not a lot of battling.
So you're not really thinking about, oh, I have to have Sword Dance, or I have to have Leer or Growl in my moveset.
But on the other side, sometimes when a battle comes up, I would feel like unprepared. I'm like, oh, there's a battle now, and it felt weird to have a Pokemon battle that wasn't against a wild Pokemon.
Especially when it's a story-related battle, because sometimes you're just in a cutscene, and at the end they're like, okay, and now we battle. And I'm like, wait, what? I don't have my right team with me. What are you doing? Can't you wait? Yeah, hang on.
I like some of the later ones do like, hey, do you want to battle now, or do you need to get ready first?
Yeah,
like, okay, good.
At least you're giving me the option. Thank you. So what do you think about the story? Is it still something that's light and just...
It's light, but I like that it's light in the way that it's not like a lot of problems with Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield. I know a lot of people have is that the story keeps like interrupting whatever the player is doing or wants to be doing. And in this one, it doesn't feel like that much. It's like, all right, you can go out of the world, you can go into this area, and if you want to get to the next area, you have to do some like this specific stuff and then deal with this story stuff.
Yeah.
So you could choose what to do. Like if you want more areas, you could beat one of the bosses first, the boss of the area first, or you can just stay here for a while, try to find everything you can. And then do whatever.
It's very, very welcoming to see how much freedom you're given with the game when you just go about your business. It's not like, oh, and now you're forced to do this. It's fairly open-ended, where you're giving the main goal and then you just have to figure out how to get there however you want. And even when you're going through the story and when you're at the end of the story, it's still not like pressuring you to do things. It's except for that one bit where you're kind of, how do I say this, where you're the outlaw of the village, and that's probably the only guided section of the story, I'd say. But I am happy with the story we got, but I kind of wanted it to go deeper and have a bit more, given more complexity not I don't think complexity is the right word because we're still talking about a Pokemon game, but I just
a little more depth into
not,
the
not
lore
the
and
lore,
stuff.
but about the people, how the people live in the village, how they cooperate and live together.
How they survive eating nothing but potato
Basically,
mochi all the time.
So kind of giving me a sense of how the world operates. 'Cause
right. I mean, I feel like you get that from gameplay and a lot of the requests, right?
But also
But not as much as
you don't really get the urgency of the plot because the villagers say, "Oh no, I don't want Pokemon near me because they scare me." And then you're thinking, okay, why do they scare you? What was there something that happened recently or long ago that made you traumatized?
I don't know. Have you seen that you've gotten KO'd by those wild Pokemon before? I'm sure.
But
maybe that's what happened.
From our experience and from what we've played in the game, there are also plenty of normal, friendly Pokemon. So I just needed that little bit of an interaction. There are small tidbits, but they kind of feel disjointed. More like, oh, and here's a side story. Until you can get to the main story. It's not really integrated into the overall game world.
Right.
I should say.
Which I also think is nice, because I know side quests aren't mandatory. So that's really
but
nice.
there are a bunch of them. I'm still struggling with I think 2 or 3 side stories from the beginning that I still haven't finished.
I also really like how catching legendary Pokemon besides, Dialga, Palkia, and Arceus. I like how they're like actual side quests now. Like before in the other Pokemon games, they were just like and there's still a thing you can do, but you had to go out and look for them. This, if you find the right person, then it'll tell you where to go and okay, go to this area and I don't know, something about that felt really cool. It gave them a little more importance than they had before. Instead of being, just shoved in a random cave.
And speaking of caves, how do we feel about how the open world looks? Because that's been the hottest debate since.
Now, I admit it's not great. It's not great, but I do think it is a step above Sword and Shield in some ways.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you because, okay, maybe the wild area in comparison to this open world.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because there's not, you don't exactly have a lot of village. You have one village, and then a couple of settlements.
When you contrast what we have here in Legend Arceus with what we have in Sword and Shield, with me referring to the cities and the towns, there's a lot of variety and aesthetics that change from area to area, and lighting effects that add to the atmosphere. It's very different from what we have in Legend Arceus now, and I kind of missed that because I was thinking, oh, there's gonna be a whole bunch of villages, and nope, it's just the one. Which, kind of made me feel like I was playing a Naruto game where I'm in the hidden village of the leaf and just going,
especially, and then you get banned from the village. And I'm like, oh, I was joking about the Naruto comparisons, but I mean, and then you can also get the ninja outfits later.
And it's also nice having antagonists. I mean, we had them in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but in Sword and Shield, there weren't really that many antagonistic forces.
It was Chairman Rose, and he didn't feel like an antagonist.
I mean,
it's just like he was overly worried about something, and then he caused the thing, and then it turns out like he's not even that bad of a guy.
I mean,
he just like was a little stressed out
his
about a
character
situation.
design is definitely shifty, but in overall story development, he's not the bad bad guy. He's just someone that does bad things or makes bad decisions. But here we have kind of a goofy Team Rocket stand-in. And
I didn't even feel they were just like
I kind of feel like they were meant to evoke the Jesse and James and Meowth dynamic. But they never really reached those heights. They were just there. Which isn't a bad thing. It gives the game a bit of flavor, but they never really became more than caricatures.
Why? Which is why I'm kind of happy about that though, because then it's not like, because from the get go how they're supposed to be. Like it's not like, I don't know, like not having to deal with an actual evil team was just a nice break. And I'm like, yeah, we don't need to have that. I know it's tradition, but we don't need an evil team. Like Sun and Moon, they had Team Skull, who they weren't a bad team. They were just annoying. And then there was the Aether Foundation, who was bad. And then in Sword and Shield, we just had Team Yell, which was just a bunch of Marnie fanboys. Again, they were just annoying, not evil. You don't even need that at all. You can have those characters, but they don't need to be a team.
I don't need them to be villains per se. But having antagonistic forces versus your protagonistic forces do help propel the plot forward.
That's fine.
Otherwise, it's a very what I feel like a chill RPG a la the Atelier Ryza games and Atelier Sophie games, where it's just there, but nothing's really propelling you forward. The plot is just saying, oh, we have to go to the next step, but there's no real significance or urgency in taking the next step. But they did manage to do that with Legend Arceus by saying, oh, there's this giant space-time void in the sky that's gonna tear us apart. We better investigate it. And
speaking of which, you know what I'm annoyed at about that specific thing? Why is Ingo there?
So, I don't know who he is, really.
He's from the Battle Subway in Black and White 2, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think I played Black and White 2. So, why is he there? I don't know. I'm guessing he was an antagonistic force in Black and White 2.
He was not. I think he was just a character in the Battle Subway.
I don't know. I guess.
Oh, and in Black and White.
Okay, Black and White I did play, but I don't remember him. But I think that is weird. Why add another character that came from the future into the past? That's just kind of echoing what you're going through as a character.
And why a Unovan trainer? And it's like, oh, well, the Black and White remakes might be coming. And I'm like, maybe.
Or maybe they're kind of slowly building their... I can't believe I'm saying this. Their Pokemon multiverse by bringing over characters across generations and lands.
Yeah, a friend of mine was saying something like that too. Which would be very weird. Or maybe it's hinting at like, hey, that's what we're doing for the next Legends game. It's going to be in Unova, so that's why Ingo's here. I'm like, okay, but it didn't need to be actually him. It could have been his ancestor or something.
I do agree with that because having a character that just echoes your journey is not really good storytelling, I think. But it's not the biggest deal either.
He doesn't really echo your journey, though. He's the warden of the...
No, I mean,
one of the
in terms of him also being from the future and not remembering where he's from or what the world is supposed to look like until much later. That's how it echoes your journey, I feel like. But yeah, it's whatever. How do we feel about the setup of the progression where you don't have gym battles or kahunas to battle against, but
You have the
you have
ranks.
the ranks, and you have the frenzied Pokemon to battle against. What do you feel about that?
So those are kind of
Okay.
two different things. The ranks, because you don't have to defeat the bosses to get your rank up. You can get like another friend of mine got their rank up a ton in the first area before doing anything else.
Which I can see happening, yeah.
And then me, I just got to rank 9 because those last two are a real grind.
Yeah, I get that. I think currently at rank 6 or 7. And it's a slow climb up that hill. It's kind of like in Monster Hunter Rise, where you have to go for the certification tests. And you have to do a lot of missions and do a lot of stuff before you can get the next rank. It kind of felt like that.
I wish they were a little more generous with points, to be honest. Because sometimes I'd be like catching so many Pokemon and like new Pokemon or alpha Pokemon, and I still wouldn't get as many points as I thought I should be getting.
Yeah. It's on the one hand, it lends the game to have it allows the game to have a longer shelf life, but on the other hand, it kind of makes it frustrating trying to finish the game because you're just grinding and not really feeling like you're making any meaningful progress. Especially in that one section where you're an outlaw. I don't think your experience stacks all that much.
No,
so
it doesn't.
if you end up catching a lot of Pokemon during that time or doing a lot of stuff during that time, it won't count to your overall score, and that sucks. Because I was really racking it up, and I thought, okay, when I'm back in the village, when they welcome me with open arms, I'll have a lot of experience. And nope. Which is a bummer, but I guess they just want you to stick with the game a lot longer.
Yeah. And so the second thing you said, the noble Pokemon fights, the boss would serve as boss fights in this game rather than gym leaders. I could have done without the throwing the bombs at them part.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool idea, but I feel like because I was already doing that with a bunch of wild Pokemon anyways, I'm like, I'd rather just like battle them as if they were, a totem Pokemon, which is, this probably came somewhat from that idea.
Well, I think they kind of wanted to shake things up in a major way, but then you're still bound by the traditional battle system. And I think they kind of want to give you a lot more interactivity and a lot more a bigger sense of adventure when you're fighting against these monsters. But it kind of ends up being rote and mechanical, where you're just throwing lures or bombs, and then at certain points you're battling against them. It's just repetitive. Although from one noble Pokemon to the other, they do increase in difficulty. So that was a welcome change, because I think the last 3 were kicking my butt fairly often.
Right. Avalugg has a very tiny window.
It's not fun, and
bombs at it.
And Arcanine was also a big thing to contend with, and it's fun. It kind of makes it feel like Dark Souls, where you're rolling around the whole arena because you don't want to get hit. I mean, you have a very limited amount of health, and it's not that like it grows back. It just once your health is gone, it's gone. Then you have to start the whole battle all over again, and that's kind of not so fun. I kind of wanted my health to grow back, or give me health potions to combat that, because it's really annoying having to go through a lot of those motions and not knowing what you're supposed to do, and then wiping out all to have you do it all over again, and that's kind of annoying.
I did like how, like, you know, they reminded me of Dark Souls bosses because they have like the big health bar and then their name pops up and it'll be like Lord of the Woods, Cleavor.
I mean, it's. I think.
I was like, yeah. And you're rolling. Yeah. You are rolling.
I think they were going for that feeling, but I just needed a bit more. Just a bit more. I don't know. I don't know how you could do that, but you're still, like I said, constrained by the traditional turn-based battle system. So you have to find a way to work that in.
Oh, you can rematch them? In the post-game, apparently? I'm just reading this now.
I don't think I'd want to do that because, you know, those are a lot of tough moments.
You get EXP candies from it.
Yeah, but don't they kind of lessen the quality of your Pokemon if you use too much? So,
I mean, you have the grit dust and the grit rocks and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually didn't use those most of the time because I didn't know how much they helped.
I used them for kind of my favorites, like Samurott.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Palkia and Dialga. Just by buffing their special attacks and defense, that's just what I do. Another thing that kind of annoyed me was the limited item space in your satchel. Because...
Right, that guy's the real villain of the game.
he just introduced capitalism in Pokemon. It's just so annoying because you think you're going to have enough space to carry all the stuff you need and all the stuff you're going to find in the field. But no, you're just going to run out immediately and then you have to buy these upgrades because apparently that's a thing and I don't know why that's a thing. Are they trying to disincentivize you from using your satchel? Or do they want you to think carefully about the items you're putting in your satchel? But I feel like we every 5 or 10 years we keep having this discussion about over encumbrance in RPGs and how it's kind of a dumb idea when you can have, I don't know, a creature that breathes fire, but for some reason having unlimited item space in your satchel is impossible. Whatever. It's so annoying, and I think this game runs into the same problem that Tales of Arise runs into, where you have very limited amounts of money left after buying all the upgrades and buying all the items and crafting material and buying clothes and whatnot. It's so frustrating that the game is kind of unbalanced in that respect. Or maybe I'm just playing it wrong and I'm not supposed to think too hard about it and just go with the flow. How have you come across or how have you dealt with the limited item space?
It's been annoying, but usually if I pick up items that I'm not going to use, I just decided to start buying Pokeballs instead of crafting them, and that way I'm not, because you know they take 3 different items most of the time.
The specialized balls, yes.
The apricorns and the what's it called? The rocks. I forgot what they're called. Tumblestones.
Yeah.
The tumblestones and the and iron chunks. And it's like, well, I saved 3 spaces by not having.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's definitely annoying. Okay, granted, you do have your storage space at camps and at your apartment, but it's still annoying. Maybe not. Maybe limited item space is not a bad idea, but tying it to ever increasing prices is really, really weird and
right.
Kind of feels like when you're upgrading in Dark Souls, where with every subsequent level, it just
only
becomes worse and more expensive. It's just a headache. So we've talked about the story, the battle system, the world. Are we forgetting anything major? Or we do still have to talk about the Daybreak update, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to talk to you about like the end of the game and the post game. So near the end of the game, when you start getting into those battles with that were actually 6-on-6, were those difficult for you? Because they were real difficult for me.
When was that again?
When not Professor Rowan, but his ancestor, I forgot his name.
Have I run into that battle? Is it?
You did, because it's part of the story.
6-on-6.
Yeah. I don't know if he was the first one.
I do remember running into battles where it's just me against 3 other Pokemon often.
Yeah, that was weird
annoying.
Too. And can you not target
the?
Okay, what I haven't been able to switch targets.
ZL or ZR to switch targets.
Okay, because I was because this whole time I was like, which one?
Yeah.
Do I? No, ZR is the Pokeball or the Pokemon.
No,
isn't it?
It's ZL or ZR. I can't remember which one, but
probably ZL.
That's how you switch targets.
Okay, because that was really messing. That was the thing that was messing me up.
They don't properly explain it too, because sometimes you're in the wild and you just run into a whole group of Pokemon and you're just left there thinking, okay, how am I gonna survive this? And sometimes they're way over leveled compared to your Pokemon, and that can make it a struggle. And it feels like these critters are on something, because they one-shot you so often that, I mean, I have felt T-wipes coming on my heels every so often, and it's not fun. Or, well, it's exciting, sure, but it's not fun thinking you're unprepared for a battle and you can't do anything to stave off the upcoming defeat. It's, on the one hand, it's a welcome change of pace, but on the other, I feel like they still have to work on the balance, because there are a lot of things that feel too different, like when an opponent switches Pokemon, or is it when he switches Pokemon, or is it when
switches? It doesn't ask us to switch.
So is it when you defeat the Pokemon of the opponent and the opponent switches a Pokemon, the game doesn't ask you to switch? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and if they switch before that, it still doesn't ask you to switch. You always have to do it manually. I kind of like that for the challenge of it, but it's also it is annoying.
As I said, a lot of moves one-shot you, and if that happens, then there's no way to prepare for that. If I feel like they just cranked up the attack variable in the back end.
Yeah. And what do you think about the styles, the agile style and then the strong style type of things? I didn't use them most of the time.
I like them, but they don't end up having any meaningful effect, I feel like. Because most of the time you can just get by just using the regular old style.
That's what I felt too. It didn't
it's
really.
It's a nice idea on paper, but it's not really.
In execution, it's not great.
I think maybe the Ruin King, that League of Legends game, did it better, because they also have a similar system where you.
You know what it reminded me of, actually? Bravely Default. I know that's a bit different, but just because of how it's kind of the opposite. because Bravely Default, you choose not to attack, and then the power style, you have to wait a turn or two until you can attack again.
It's similar.
So
it's similar.
It kind of reminded me of it. Yeah.
Though with Bravely Default, I think it's a lot more balanced. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I think this is better.
Yeah. Do you think? How do I phrase this?
I would rather have them not keep this battle style. For if they do another Legends game, I'm like, I don't really want this.
I think they should keep it, but I think they should make the changes more deliberate. Where
and in Legends only, probably not in. I wouldn't put this in the other games.
That's fine by me. If it's just in Legends, I just want them to keep experimenting like this, but make the battles feel more tactical. And not kind of like, just press A to go on the road to victory. But I want to be able to think my way out of battles, not just pressing A all the time.
Right.
Do you think they will increase the difficulty and complexity with subsequent games? Or do you think this will, similarly to the mainline games, stick to
I'm really hoping with this one, with Legends specifically, that they have honestly I hope this for any Pokemon game really, but Legends specifically, I really hope they have several difficulty modes, because I think this definitely warrants an easier mode for some players. Especially because kids are going to be like, oh, it's Pokemon. And when I was a kid, I don't know if I'd be able to get that far in this game, to be honest. if I played this when I was a kid.
I don't think we should discount kids.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for those who might be having trouble with it, I think it would be good to have.
I still think
maybe some kind of difficulty slider.
I still think it's a fairly approachable game. It's not too difficult, and maybe I'm using difficulty wrong here, but it's.
I still die to wild Pokemon.
Yeah, sure, but
I'm not paying quite enough attention, and I kind of wish there was. I know there are items to help prevent that, but I kind of wish there was like your character could get a health boost at a certain point, at least in the post game.
Yeah, so difficulty is not maybe the word we should use, but complexity and challenge.
Right.
When approaching battles, that's probably how we should think about it. Because Pokemon has for the longest time just been, pick an attack, press A, rinse and repeat. It's nothing more, nothing less, and. Well, sometimes it's like, okay, also Mega Evolve or not, and items, and things are added on to that. Yeah, that does sometimes add some spice to the recipe, and that's welcome for sure. I hope they continue the Legends Online and keep experimenting with it, because I think there's still so much they can do. Though what has left me scratching my head is I was left under the impression that this was supposed to be, quote unquote, the earliest in the timeline. It should have been with terms of people encountering Pokemon. But if you play this game, there are a lot of mentions of ancient Hisuians, or that one woman who wears European clothing in a Japanese styled village for some reason, who mentions her ancestors who worshipped Arceus, and it's like, I thought this was the olden times, so you're telling me they're olden times? Is that them telling us they will go further down the road, or experiment with kind of like a Renaissance era Pokemon game, or a prehistoric type of Pokemon game? What do you think?
Sorry, I if they'll do another one like this, or
kind of like experiment with the time frame, because in this game they mentioned that this isn't the earliest point in time. There were earlier moments.
Right. I don't know if they'll go earlier. Like I could see Johto, a Legends Ho-Oh or Legends Johto. That's the other thing. I really wish this wasn't called Legends Arceus. I kind of wish this was called Legends Sinnoh instead.
Why Sinnoh?
I think it would have made more sense because, one, that's what the Hisui region becomes, but two, that's what they called Palkia and Dialga and Arceus were all collectively known as Sinnoh. So I think it would have made more sense to just call it Pokemon Legends Sinnoh. Personally, it's just a personal.
It's not maybe easier, but there are plenty of places in the real world that had different names at certain points points in time, and over the course of the years and centuries, they just slowly changed and morphed into what we know them now. So I don't think that's all too weird. And yeah, there's mention of why it's called Hisui and why it shifted to Sinnoh. It's not the biggest reveal, but it's there. I forgot to ask you, what do you think about Team Galaxy being the quote-unquote good guys this time?
Oh, there's this line that people were screenshotting. I think from the update that where Silene was saying like, yes, and the Galaxy Core or the Survey Core, our story will be told from generations, and we will like, I don't know, with something good. But then it's just such a contrast to what we know about Team Galactic. Everybody's like, no.
Why did you say that? Yeah, it's
like, let's bring her to the future. Here's your Cyrus. Here's your great grandmother. She is going to
have a field day with you. Maybe that's the next Legends game where they take where they go to the future and then confront their descendants and like the thing you're doing now. I don't like it.
No.
How about no?
But yeah, and the other thing about the story that I forgot to mention is I was always like thinking about like, okay, who's that person related to? Who's that person related to? And then like, if I couldn't, sometimes I either couldn't tell, or it's like, oh, that person looks like this person from this other region, like Irida, is that her name?
Yeah.
The Pearl Clan lady. She looks like May from Ruby and Sapphire. And I'm like,
kind of.
And Adamon doesn't look like anybody.
But you know,
that I can think of.
It's maybe not that. It's not one-to-one. It could be like a member of their clan that had kids with another member of their clan that eventually morphed into the protagonist of one of the later games.
Because I'm surprised that an ancestor of Wally from Ruby and Sapphire was in this game. I mean, you don't find that out until the very end, but it's like, oh, all right. And then like if you talk to him after, he'll be like, I gotta go move somewhere with a better clan.
That's nice. Yeah, so how are we feeling about the music? Because there are some bright spots and well,
a lot of the music is reused from, or like rearranged stuff from Diamond and Pearl. And I only know that because I played Diamond and Pearl, the remake, so recently. I'm like, oh, this is that one, and oh, this is that. I like the music in the village.
Super calming, and at a certain point, the music shifts as you progress through the story.
Right.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, a little bit.
It feels like they kind of add extra instruments to the whole song. It's kind of cool. A weird thing I've noticed in this game, Pikachu and Eevee don't have their voice actors doing the lines.
Right. I mentioned that in an article I was working on. They switched back to the
Pokemon cries.
Do you And a lot of people were actually pretty happy about that.
Should we be happy about that? Because, sure, it's more uniformity with the other critters, but I just got so used to having that bit of extraness in the games, but having it ripped away for no apparent reason is so weird. Yeah, it's such a head scratcher, and it's also been talked about online and in the discourse. But have you been missing any voice acting in this game, or do you think Pokemon can still fare well with non-spoken dialogue?
This one I didn't mind not having voice acting. I think it was a little different from Sword and Shield. In that Sword and Shield had those scenes as like, okay, this really needed voice acting. But they seem to, I think they dialed it back a little bit with this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
So I was okay without it.
As most games in the series go, they're very light on story, so it's not really needed. But there are certain moments where it would have been welcome to have that added effect. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, it's maybe something they can look into for the next iteration. So we've spoken at length about Legend Arceus. Shall we transition to the new ones?
There was one more. No,
okay.
The post game. So
I'm not that far
post-game,
into the post game, so I don't know.
Did you battle the? It's a spoiler, so I don't know if you got to him.
Yeah, I'm.
Okay, you're collecting the plates, right? Yeah. I'm guessing. Okay, so you battle Volo.
Yes, I battled Volo.
And he was very hard.
I don't trust Volo for some reason. He kind of feels like the secret villain of the game.
Well, he is. You said you battled him. Oh,
not that.
You didn't battle him with Giratina.
No.
Or when he had Giratina. Okay, so that happens. So he is. You're right. You're right to not trust him, actually. But he doesn't have that's the only villain thing he has, and then after that he settles down. But he has basically Cynthia's whole team.
So is he like her
and
ancestor?
the music plays too. But
okay.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of obvious from the get-go. But I had a team because I went around to catch a bunch of the extra mythicals and legendaries because I was having so much trouble with him. And I even had trouble when using them. Like just a team of all of them.
What level were you on?
I can't remember. I think I was slightly under level though.
So you'd probably have to be about 80 to make it work, I think. Or maybe higher. Because at the end of the story, you're about between 60 and 70, I feel like. Or am I wrong? Okay.
No, I think you're right.
So, how do you feel about the post game? Do you think it's a worthwhile addition to do it as they've done it here, or did you want something more akin to Battle Tower or what have you? Like, are you missing the Victory Road, the Elite Four, or are you just fine with how it is in this one?
Without the Elite Four? I mean, I like the concept of the Elite Four. Obviously, it wasn't needed here. I mean, the closest thing we have to that are the Wardens, but they're not really. They're more like gym leaders, and they're not even like that really. It's just different. It's hard to compare because they're so different. it's hard to choose if I had to choose one over the other. I think I prefer an Elite Four and gym leaders, but like the Wardens are a cool idea.
I think it would be a worthwhile addition to Arceus if we had a bit more of the traditional progression, like going through gyms, going through Elite Four. Well, not specifically gyms, but something that would tie it in together. Like, why do we have gyms in the present day? Like, what's the purpose of gyms? That would have been cool to see established in Legend Arceus, or maybe that's something they're keeping for the next one.
For the next one, a lot of people think it's gonna be Legend Celebi because Celebi still has to do with time travel.
Sure, but the thing is with time travel, once you go down that well, you can only do it well
twice.
Only so many times.
In terms of Pokemon, you can only do it with Celebi and Arceus / Dialga.
I mean, I kind of want to see Ho-Oh done right.
Yeah, that's what I want to see, because I'd like to see because remember, like, Johto has some of that lore about the burnt tower and how the 3 legendary beasts were originally different Pokemon who died in the fire, and then Ho resurrected them. And it would be interesting to see that story and why that happened, because we don't know why that happened.
It would be cool to maybe have Ash's or Red's ancestor be the one to go on that journey.
Right, or Gold or Silver or whoever.
That would be cool to see. Yeah.
Or Chris. Or what are the other ones? Oh, Ethan and Lyra, who are the DS ones.
It doesn't have to be like olden times per se. It could also be like a disco era thing. I don't know.
I don't think. Well, no. For the burnt tower, I think it would be around the same era as the Sinnoh stuff, if not like a little bit, maybe a little bit in the future, but not by a lot. I think a Unova one would be cool, given that there's that whole thing about the original dragon that split into Kyurem and Reshiram and Zekrom, and the 2 brothers, and then Pokemon Legends Zygarde or Kalos, because of the whole war, the 3,000-year war or whatever, and the fact that we never got a Pokemon Z anyway.
I mean, now you're just gonna call up all recycled elements that could have been.
But no, one idea I had though was Pokemon Legends Mewtwo, and they do the aesthetic. It looks more like not modernized, but like a 3D version of what the art for like the original games kind of look like just more in a more modern style. It has like this retro 90s aesthetic to it.
That could work.
Like the kind of aesthetic that was in the original Pokemon anime.
Like a 2D, 3D version of Red and Blue could also work.
Well, not 2D, but yeah, I know they just did Let's Go recently, so they probably wouldn't do that. But or like something where you go back and forth through time would be cool too.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Instead of just staying in one era.
That could also have gameplay implications where in one era you can't catch a certain Pokemon, but in the other you could, or have a present or past evolution tied to Eevee.
I'm kind of thinking like I forgot what game it was, but there are games that have done this where you do one thing in one era and then it changes something
Chris
in another era.
Recently did that, so it could be something they could implement here, or let it have gameplay consequences. Like you help a villager in the past, and that ends up being the mayor that establishes a town later in the future. It could be cool. to have that.
Yeah. Have you? Oh, and then one last thing about Arceus before we get into the new stuff. Two last things. So, did you catch any shinies besides the Ponyta that was in that one request?
That's the only one I found.
Okay, because as of today, I think I have like 11.
Like it's not like
or maybe 12, including the Ponyta. Because I got Ponyta, and then Elekid, and then a Budu, and a what are the other ones? Chansey. 2 Dustox that I found at the same time.
I'm actually quite surprised I haven't run into that many shinies, because in Shining Pearl I kind of had such good luck with coming across those shinies, but here it's just that one Ponyta from that one mission, and that's it.
Yeah. And then Rapidash, and today I got a shiny Prinplup and a shiny Haunter. And like half the time I'm actually trying to find an alpha Rhydon or a shiny Rhydon, but I haven't found that, so I'm just like, and I've caught a ton of Rhyhorn and Rhydon.
Yeah.
But there's an alpha Rhyperior, that's a static one. But yeah, I'm just like, oh, I've caught enough, like, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I've probably caught enough Pokemon. I'm probably due to run into a shiny pretty soon, and then usually...
Yeah. I just haven't had that luck yet.
Although sometimes it can be hard to tell because of, depending on what colors the shinies are. Especially if you catch something right when a shiny right before a shiny appears, because you'll see the spark from the Pokeball at the same time as the shiny sparkle, and I'd be like, wait, was that a shiny?
Yeah, that's definitely confusing, because it just gels together and it ends up confusing everyone.
Yeah, unless they're like a very different color, like Happiny and Haunter are only slightly different. Haunter I could tell because it has a blue mouth, but yeah, Happiny is just a lighter shade of pink. Elekid is a slightly different shade of yellow. Like when it's like a Prinplup is a very slightly different shade of blue. So I almost didn't even notice that one. But yeah, when it's stuff like that, it can be hard to tell. So it's good that they have the sound. There was one more thing. Oh, the update. So have you done the mass outbreak stuff at all?
Not really. Like I've done it before the update, so I never really felt compelled to do it.
Well, the massive mass outbreak.
No.
I mean, sorry,
no,
that's what it's called.
Not yet.
Yeah, so it's different, where there's like a bunch of outbreaks at once in an area, and you don't know which Pokemon. There's just a bunch of question marks all over the place. You have to feed some Agua berries to Mai's Munchlax, and then it'll tell you what Pokemon are in the outbreaks. Or you could just not do that and just see what happens. And then alphas can just randomly show up. There can also be groups of alphas, but I haven't seen that yet.
I have only done one like that, but not like a massive one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because I might end up catching some that have still eluded me. For some reason, I still haven't 100% my Pokédex yet. It's a surprising amount of work left to do once you're done with the game, but it's still great fun. So now we can move on to the new stuff.
Right. So we were gonna do this podcast was actually postponed. We were supposed to do this last week, or whenever this is up, we were supposed to do this before Pokemon Day. But it's actually good we did it after Pokemon Day, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the 9th Pokemon generation, was just announced for late 2022. Which some people think, oh, it's too soon, but it's a 3-year cycle. Sword and Shield came out about 3 years ago.
Is it?
3 years before that was Sun and Moon. 3 before that was X and Y.
If you count
I
like
could go
that,
on.
sure. But with the cadence we've had recently, where it's been Sword and Shield, then the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra DLC the year after, and then Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl the year after, and then Legend Arceus this year. It does feel like kind of too much all at once. Not to say that the quality is dipping, but you do notice that they can't really dedicate a lot more resources that they need to make these games be what they are. Because, as Twitter has made it quite clear, the graphics aren't always something to write home about. And there are features that a lot of modern games have that are still notably missing, like, say, voice acting.
Right.
Is that a stylistic choice, or is that a choice chalked up to not having enough development resources available over the course of the 3 years or 5 years allocated to game from one game to another game? So it's tough, because what were your first impressions when you saw Scarlet and Violet?
It looks better than Sword and Shield and Arceus. It's still not where it could be when compared to stuff like Super Mario Odyssey and
yeah, but
Xenoblade 3, but it's a step forward still.
People kind of I don't say confused. I shouldn't say confused. Different open worlds give different impressions. But
right.
One open world allowing you to do X, Y, and Z should not automatically mean
that's different Pokemon game.
That you can also do that in a different game. So in terms of people comparing the graphics to Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet and Legend Arceus to Xenoblade Chronicles, Breath of the Wild, what have you, and it not being up to snuff, they are serving very different audiences. As I've talked about to death on this show before, when you're crafting an open world with Pokemon in it, you have to account for animal behavior. You have to account for their special moves, being elemental quite often. You're going to have to account for how that affects the world. Does it change the geography? Does it add to the geography? Is it hazardous to your health? Does it change the flora and fauna around you? There's a lot of stuff you have to take into account when you're creating a living, breathing open world. And you can't just throw everything in a Unreal Engine 5 blender and then just hope it comes out looking like Red Dead Redemption 2. That's just not how it works. And even then, you still have to account for, okay, I have this limited amount of storage capacity and memory allocation that I can allocate to movesets and how the movesets operate in the open world, and all that juggled with the lighting effects, the sound effects, the way your feet touch the ground, or if they don't touch the ground, or if you can climb surfaces. All that has to come together in a playable package, and it's not just, as I said, throwing it into a blender and hoping it comes out looking like the best thing ever. That's just not how it works. So I'm fine with how it looks. I will admit that there are frame rate dips and instances where I feel like this could probably use another year or two in the oven before it comes out. But besides that, I think they look totally fine and cute and adorable, and I will play it as soon as it's available, and I will have the time of my life, as usual.
It's going to be, and I do hope, it seems like they did learn some, like, people are worried about, not waiting for feedback from Legends Arceus. But it seems like they're already going towards the open world thing anyway, which is usually probably the most feedback they get.
It could also be that they've already been down or on the path that a lot of people want them to be for a long time, because the way game development goes, it's not like they just started developing this game yesterday. This has been in the works, as you say, for probably about 3 years, even longer if you count pre-production. So all that taken together, it's probably not them per se taking lessons learned from Legend Arceus, but maybe the trajectory just matches what we want them to be on. Yeah.
Right. And you also got to remember, this is the first trailer. Remember, the first trailer for Legends Arceus looked a lot worse than it does now.
It's not a huge divide, but yeah, you are right. They have optimized the game.
But yeah, they have time.
When you play the game, depending on who you are as a player, it doesn't. Well, I'll speak for myself. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. Like you do notice pop in. You do notice Pokemon in the distance, in the far off distance, not animating as smoothly as they should. Like they're kind of in stop motion animation until you get close enough, and they then look and behave like normal Pokemon should. It doesn't bother me that much because
No. And other games do that too. I saw that happen in Elden Ring. Okay, it didn't happen as... Like, I saw an enemy from far away, and it was doing that same thing. And then I got a little closer,
totally
and then
fine.
it looked like it was flying normally.
I'm also currently playing Elden Ring. When I put it in frame rate mode, I do come across all those features or lack of features where textures pop in, grass doesn't exist until I walk onto it, or
right. That only happened to me once.
Yeah.
The pop-in.
It happens. And I've also been playing Cyberpunk recently, and that game has a lot of bugs because it's trying to sim.
It still does?
Well,
I thought it was better now.
I'll say this. It doesn't have the bugs it used to have where the game was broken, but it does have... It still has bugs because it's an open world trying to simulate the real world with layers and layers of density, and that's just not as straightforward as we want it to be.
Right. So I recently did an article going over all of the old Pokemon that were showcased in the Scarlet and Violet trailer. Just getting back on topic here. And most of them were available in Arceus or Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, which I understand why. That's probably a lot easier. Or Sword and Shield for some of them. I understand why. It's probably easier, but I find it a little bit annoying that it's like, well, I already can access these Pokemon. I'd rather see Pokemon I can't access in these games that I already played and already have.
I think Alana... I think
3.
Alana Pierce said it in one of her videos a few years back, that the dream for developers is to be as a movie or TV show production where they can reuse assets and sets and kind of streamline the whole thing without having to build new sets, new locations, new methods of filming every time they have to do a new movie or TV show. And you kind of see it in video games when, especially with the Assassin's Creed games, the last 3, where you have a lot of reused assets. That's because building assets takes a lot of time and a lot of coding effort and a lot of lighting effort and a lot of effort. So if you have all that data at the ready and you can just touch it up, polish it, and I'm talking as if it's not taking a lot of time, and even that takes up a lot of time, it would be a lot more beneficial to do that than start from scratch. And I think that's the thing that we're seeing with the last 3 Pokemon games or last 4 Pokemon games, reusing assets of the same Pokemon. It's just easier to use the data you already have instead of using data that you'd have to cook up from scratch, because you only have a limited amount of time to make these games. You don't have
right. Especially when there's the whole thing with the Pokemon Company, and you need to have it be coincide with the anime and all that.
I think
which
it
is
is
unfortunate.
And you're gonna see a lot of repeats, but you also see with the 3 new starters that they're already making efforts to introduce new stuff. So I think they're just keeping that under wraps until.
It's also funny because Digimon, we just had Digimon Con recently, and they kind of have the opposite problem. It was like, we want to remake and remaster some older Digimon games, but Bandai Namco is hard to convince. and then with Digimon Survive, they said like, oh, there will be around 113 Digimon in the game. There will be more, but like doing all those models and doing animations for all those different models is a lot of work. And it's like, see, it's not just a Pokemon
it's not just a Pokemon problem. Just think that. Okay, I'll just.
Why do you think so many enemies look similar in like certain games, and then they just have like different? They're stronger and have different armor, but have like the same structure essentially.
Even with Pokemon, because Pikachu doing tackle looks like Onix doing tackle. Basically, it's not that that much variance.
Like, and people bring up Pokemon Stadium and the double kick thing as like, oh, this is how Kabutops did double kick in Pokemon Stadium and had a unique animation, but double kick now is just a foot. And I'm just like, well, that's too. You like, one, they had a lot less Pokemon to
and they
use,
also didn't have the open world to contend with.
Yeah, it was all battling.
That's a lot less work when you just have one arena to account for. It's tough, and I think Game Freak is the Pokemon Company and all the other satellite studios are struggling with the transition from 2D to 3D, where 2D as a plane of animation and creative effort is a lot easier to do than, well, not easier. It takes up a lot less time, not per se easier. And being full 3D just adds a lot more complexity than people are used to.
So I'm not sure, but looking at the character models and Pokemon models of Scarlet and Violet, it looks like possibly that the developers of new Pokemon Snap, Bandai Namco Studios, may have helped a little bit. Or they just used similar models.
I think they just used similar models. I don't...
Like, they were like, oh, they were just like, they looked at like new Pokemon Snap. It's like, oh, that's good. We should do that.
But even still, it's not 1-to-1, I feel like.
Again, Pokemon Snap, you're on rails and you're taking pictures.
It's a lot less headache than animating Pokemon battling each other.
Although there are Pokemon battling each other in that game, but it's different. It's a different context.
Exactly. But moving on, which of...
So overall... for
I was
Scarlet and Violet?
Which one of the 3 starters are your favorite?
Fuecoco. I do Firestarter every gen, even when I don't like it, like Tepig.
Why is that? Why Firestarters?
It's just the tradition I've gone with. Except for one time when I first played Sapphire, I chose Mudkip.
If you have a grass type, wouldn't you have the earliest shot at success? Because the first gym is a rock.
It depends on the game.
Sure, but yeah.
Because remember, in Fire Red and Leaf Green, if you choose Charmander, if you get it up enough, it can learn Metal Claw. And then it has a steel attack to take down the Brock's rock types. So it just...
There is that.
You know? And then there's usually a Pokemon you can catch if you don't have, like... If your starter isn't the right type match. There's usually a Pokemon on the way to the gym that you can catch that'll help out a lot.
Yeah, I get that.
I like Sprigatito and Quaxley, and I'm sure I'll get them later, but Fuecoco is what I'm going to go
can't
with.
decide yet. They all look very adorable. I think it's going to be dependent on their second and third forms.
That's what a lot of
That's
people
usually
are
how
saying.
I choose my starters. Because if it looks kind of off, that's a no for me. But we'll see.
Yeah. So overall, Pokemon Legends Arceus, I thought it was good. It's definitely I think it's definitely a step in the right direction for the series. Oh, I lost my train of thought right there. Oh, it would be if it wasn't for I like if Scarlet and Violet weren't this year, it would probably be on my top 5 game of the year for this year. But now we have to wait to see how Scarlet and Violet are first to see if I like those better.
Than Legend Arceus,
which I probably will.
I don't know if I'd put Legend Arceus in my top 5 right now because Elden Ring is blowing everything out of the water.
If not top 5, I've definitely put top 10. Oh, Elden Ring's definitely in my top 5. We'll talk about that next podcast.
I think Legend of Arceus is for me a solid 7.5 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say around there for me too. It's like it has good stuff there, but with a little tweaking, it could be great.
It's just shy of greatness. It's a good first step towards where Pokemon should go. I'm very happy and delighted to see where this road takes them, and I hope they keep following this road because the audience gets older, and with becoming older, they are also expecting a franchise. The franchise to grow up with them, and having it split into the main line being still accessible and still being basically Little Timmy's first RPG, and having the Legend sub-series be the challenging Monster Hunter-esque, Elden Ring-esque Pokemon game us grown-ups want. Maybe that's a good route to go on. But we'll see. For now, I'm happy with what we have, and I'm looking forward to Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about Pokemon Legends Arceus.
I think we've covered everything.
What we wanted to.
This has been.
We didn't talk about the Pokeballs that much.
Do we need to? Because even they don't really talk about the Pokeballs that much. It's like, oh, we put rocks together with apricorns, and that's how we make Pokeballs, but.
No, but the Pokemon have an instinct where they shrink, apparently.
I thought it was kind of like this space-time contraption that shrinks Pokemon down, but they could have said something.
Now, that's not the first time they've said this. They said in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, there's a guy who says like he's like, oh, they have an instinct. Pokemon have an instinct to curl up into a ball when threatened, so that's why they fit in Pokeballs. And then this one, they're like, oh, they shrink. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But I took it as like, maybe that's just their understanding of it. Because remember, this is still ancient times.
Could have as well said, we have managed to channel Arceus's powers into this container form, and that's how we shrink Pokemons down to...
Or some kind of space-time
right
thing.
There. Use it. But I digress. I think this has been it. This has been a lovely podcast, a lovely spoiler cast.
Stay tuned for our Elden Ring spoiler cast.
Well, could it be a spoiler cast? But because it feels like that game never ends.
In a few weeks. All right, well, there will be spoilers.
Well, thank you for listening. This has been Erroll. This has been Jason. We thank you for being on this podcast journey with us. As always, take care of yourself, stay healthy, stay safe, get vaccinated if you can.
Yes, get vaccinated if you can, wear a mask. Do not pretend the pandemic is over when it's not, all right? It's not quite yet, unfortunately. I got, there are still high-risk individuals, and like, I don't know.
Think of the children, think of the elderly, think of the disabled people, and then immunocompromised people.
Such, yeah.
It costs nothing to think of the next person, so think of...
Right, and also, it's not that hard to wear a mask.
Having that said, play video games, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and we will see you next time.
Yep. Matane.